Anuman.
Hi, hi
How,
Natasha, how are you?
how are you doing? Very well. You joining in
I'm
from
good.
UK today, or
Yes, I'm in the UK right now. I'm just flying back to India next week.
so good afternoon.
Yeah, good
Right.
evening to you.
Right. So again, our conversation today would definitely be on a very different lines because last year this time we were having this conversation. You had a score of a 750 already.
Yeah,
And I think we were having a conversation around how it all started and why did you want to have the GMAT score? You really wanted the score right earlier on your career, and also you did want a higher score. Now look at this score. So you had a 750 in your GMAT, which kind of translates to maybe a 695 to a 705
yeah.
in the current format. And now you have a 725, which translates to a 99 percentile score. Right there, 100 percentile in quant, verbal 84 percentile, 98 percentile in data insight. So my question is, you did start earlier this year somewhere, the first quarter or the second quarter, end of
Yeah.
first, second quarter. So why did you take this leap of faith and the jump to why wasn't 750 enough for you?
So actually, my earlier score was actually in an was the online test version. So this year ISB, like one of my go-to B schools, like, which I'm going to apply to, they only accept in-person scores. So I had to retake the GMAT because I had to go to test centers. I had to again take an attempt. So that's the main reason I took the attempt again. Otherwise, I was quite happy with my earlier score, and yeah, that's why this attempt.
But is that all you wanted to only apply to ISB? Was there any other
Uh,
that
I
you're
think that is the primary reason. Again, like I, I was satisfied with my prior score, but obviously there's this hunger for more. So I was like, might as well do it again, and what if it clicks this time, And I felt like this version of GMAT suited me better because it was shorter and it had DI, which is like I got a 9 on 9 last time in DI, but obviously didn't count. So this year, because we're counting DI, so I thought, I could get a better score. So I was like, it's worth a shot.
right? So what kind of preparation did you do this time in both? So we'll talk in the chronological order, right? So we'll talk about your preparation. What did you do just a few days before the test and what happened on the test day? So
Mhm.
especially in every section, you could go one by one. Again, starting from verbal, then we can look at quant and then DI.
Yeah. So I think for verbal, the major change was they got done away with the sentence correction bit, and they only had verbal reasoning and logical reasoning and reading comprehension. So I think for those, I just rewatched the lectures at 2x and just brushed my memory and the tricks and the techniques that sir told earlier. And then I just did as many questions as I could. I did the sectional tests simultaneously so that I could just practice questions. And that's about it for. And one different thing I did for RC this year was I did the LSAT passages more compared to the normal GMAT questions because I had done those questions earlier, so I felt doing the LSAT passages got me better equipped with like difficult passages. So I think that was one major change that I did from last year to this year.
Right. So, in terms of the data insights, because again, although there is a difference between the last attempt and this attempt, now it's
Yeah.
more scoring. So, how did you go about your preparation? Did you really take it at the end of practicing verbal quant, or did you try to
Mm,
introduce it before?
So I think on the in the self study planner it says that you can practice more towards the end because you have to be fresh when you go to the exam. But I felt because I've done content verbal earlier, I would want to do DI more, so I focus on it throughout. And obviously I finished all the 9 or 10 DI section, like sectional mocks at the end because I had to be in the groove before I went to the exam. So I think I did make sure that I finished all the resources I had for the new section, and that's about it. Like for DI, I was consistent throughout. I didn't focus towards the end. Like as in like just on DI, I was like consistent throughout my prep on the new section.
Right. So I've heard again, your entire, I think I hope that you have similarly followed what you initially did in terms of even the exam. Your
Hmm.
idea was to simulate even the times that you would like
Yeah, Yeah.
So was that the same during just before the exam? So tell me what you followed, like 10 days or 14 days just before the exam. What was the practice like for you?
So I was focusing on my pacing because, this being a shorter test. So I was doing one mock every single day without fail. I think that was because I think more practice was the way for me because I done the content earlier. So I think doing one mock every day around the similar time that I would actually do my real exam was the key takeaway from the last time and this time as well. And secondly, this time I did maintain an error log. And I think the new portal that Sir has given, it's very, it gives a very comprehensive understanding of where you actually lack and
Right.
how you can further improve particular areas. Like suppose if I'm messing up in verbal, then which part of verbal, suppose assumption based questions, so I could actually practice those specific areas later in the evening. So I think this year, like the new portal's been really, really helpful, really insightful as well. So towards the end, I think the last 10 days I was just doing more questions, and then wherever I would not score well or I was deficient in, I would just practice those sections again.
Right. Any particular, any kind of practice that you did the last minute, anything specific?
Mm,
So at this point,
yes.
before, just 14 days before when you're trying to take the mock, you were very clear with your concepts. You were 100% sure with your practice at this point, right? So
Yeah.
did you have any time to go back to basics? I'm just saying this because then we really know what is the recipe for, getting this kind of a success. You really can't take up your exam until you're 100% thorough with the entire concepts and the basics and the practice, right?
Yeah.
So were you trying to analyze between the two marks? How were you correcting yourself?
So I think one thing that really surprised me was that my errors kept fluctuating. It wasn't just one particular area. Like sometimes I would really do well in assumption question, and the next time I would do really badly. So I was like, what's the reason behind this? So
Hmm.
what I did was I did those long hours sittings towards the end, like about 100 questions from verbal. They were like mixed bag. I think that really helped me figure out that it's not that I lack or I don't have the knowledge. It's just that one bad exam doesn't make me deficient in that area. So I think I did not like got too fussy about oh, I'm suffering here, I'm struggling here, because I knew that I got in the score earlier. I'm doing well consistently. One bad exam doesn't make me I'm not well versed with the content. So I think I just had faith in myself and my preparation and just got done with it towards the end. But the
Right.
long sittings really help because once you do 100 questions and you see your accuracy there, then you understand, okay, yes, one bad exam doesn't say everything about my prep till now.
Right. So could you take me through your test day experience in terms of the section, in terms of pacing, and in terms of simply maintaining your nerves and calm throughout the exam? Was
Yeah.
there any
So I
kind of
think
surprise?
it was a bit different because again, it was a test center and GMAT is not very popular in the UK. And me being in Birmingham, the center was about an hour from my house. So I
Huh.
had to like actually take an Uber all the way to there, and then just I was like about half an hour early, and I was the only candidate for the GMAT exam there, and the other people were there for driving license exams and everything else. So they took me to the room, and they gave me like a sheet of paper, like not paper, it's like some plastic sheets with
Laminated
mark.
sheets, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and with markers. So I knew I read this online that you get such and such for like your rough work and everything. So my sections I started with quant, which is my strongest suit. So quant was pretty easy for me, like because I had come across such questions earlier. But there's one particular question in the exam which threw me off completely, and I took about 6 minutes on that.
Okay.
But luckily, because I knew that I had that leverage of spending so much time on one question, so I knew I'd be fine. So I didn't got. I think I messed that one up. So I still got 100% time, but I think I messed that one because I got one error, and
Hmm.
that's probably that question. So I think that was a question that was not counted, I guess, but it was a very weird question. So I think I had about 3 4 minutes left for revision. I had bookmarked a few questions. So I went through them again, didn't find any errors. So I felt, okay, quant was pretty good. So that set the tone for the rest of the exam. My second section was verbal. So I did not take a break between verbal and quant. I thought because quant went smoothly, I could, cruise through verbal as well. So verbal, again, I got done with about 8 minutes to spare. And then in those 8 minutes, I had bookmarked a few questions. I went through them. I probably corrected one question. and that was verbal for me. Then I took a break, and that's when I felt okay. I'm doing quite well. I kind of knew like I have about 3 4 errors, 5 errors in verbal, whatever. But I felt like if I nail the DI section, I'll get a good score. So I took a break. Took a few sips of water, took a walk around, and then got back. For DI, I made sure that because in DI was the only section I felt I struggled with pacing when I was doing my mocks, because sometimes I would do it with 5 minutes left, 6 minutes left. Sometimes I would just not finish the exam because it was very inconsistent. So I felt like I'll make sure that I do not overspend my time on one particular part. So I think DI, it went quite smoothly. I finished about a minute to spare. So I didn't revisit because I thought I'll get nervous. I just clicked submit, and then the score came up and I was quite happy about it. So.
Right. So just tell me very honestly, when ISB announced this bit that online tests are no more accepted,
Mhm.
and you were by just then trying to get settled. Now let me look at my career and let's see. So did it really throw you off when you read the news, and how did you actually summon yourself to then now give another attempt or
So I actually applied to ISB last year as an EEO applicant, and I didn't make it. So I had a feedback call with the admissions officer there, and they said your GMAT was great and so on and so forth. And I felt okay, then GMAT wasn't the reason, right? So when they did say that they're accepting only in-person score, I thought even if I get a good GMAT score, it won't make a difference. But then I was like, I lacked all motivation. I was like, why should I even bother getting a good GMAT score? Because I can apply anywhere else with an online version and just skip ISB. But then I felt something that, if I actually improve upon it, and what if I prove them wrong, that, in my year that I've actually, gotten a better score, and, whatever areas I was not good at, I've improved myself. So I felt, okay, I'll just push myself once again. What if it clicks this time? So
yeah,
it took me about a month to convince myself that,
yeah.
just take another attempt. What's the worst that could happen? Because I had a good score earlier, so I was like, okay, fine, I'll just give it again. So I just didn't think about it. I went to top one. I messaged Richa that this is my case right now. I really want to give it again, and she's like, yeah. And then it just started from there.
It's just a very bitter time, I would say, that you have this score and then you have to retake really another 2 3 months to it. So what would be your advice? You've already given a very comprehensive advice, when you gave the last time around. But if you just want to summarize, what would you really would want to advise any future test takers? Um,
I think comparing both my preps for the two sittings, I would say consistency is key. Like if you set a deadline in your head and then you work towards it every single day, it doesn't have to be 4 hours, 5 hours. You can just do 2 hours daily. But then if you're consistent, you'll definitely have a good score. Like it'll, it'll motivate you further, because see, one thing I did was I booked my test earlier. So I knew that if I delay further, I cannot push my test, right? So like I have to do it by then. So if I had a deadline in mind, I could work towards it. So that is one thing I did. I booked my test earlier so that I was working towards one deadline. Secondly, I felt like it might get tiring, it might get monotonous, because you feel like the content is so much. When do I get done with it? When do I go to mocks? But then once you start enjoying the process, that's when
yeah,
you actually feel like, okay, yes, it's clicking now. Because initially it is like, you see the self study planner and you see, oh my God, so many lectures, so many questions, so much homework. When will I get done with this? But then gradually, once you start doing it, I think it gets exciting. And then yes, and also I think you don't have to stick to the planner. Like obviously, it's very well thought of. Like every area that you do this section for, like you do algebra, arithmetic, and so on and so forth. Then you do geometry at the end, whatever. Like, but then also if you feel like okay, you're good at you enjoy quant more, then you can practice quant simultaneously. You don't have to like just do verbal. So I think to break the monotony, you can also switch it up a bit. Like see what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And yeah, I think just enjoy the process more than anything, because again, it's just one test and doesn't define everything, but also uh, it will help you a lot. So yeah, that's my main takeaway from these two platforms.
you getting this score a 750 previously and now a 725, which is a 99 percentile, or above 760 at least. just tells us that this is a result of your practice and there is no fluke attempt in getting this score. It's just you deserve everything. If it's ISB that you want it to happen, I hope and I really wish not just ISB happens, but it happens with 100% scholarship as well. Really, really wish that for you right now. And any other school that you would like to apply with, it just is a bigger possibility right now, right?
Yeah.
Really look at maybe even the scholarship at the same time. You do have an exposure from being in UK, Europe. So I really hope that you really bring a bigger diversity to whichever school that you apply and get into. Here's wishing you all the best. Thank you again and again.
No problem.
Trusting Sandeep sir through your process, and we wish you. We are extremely proud. I mean, Sandeep sir, when he has already known, but when he hears and sees this,
Mhm.
he definitely give you a shout out. Big congratulations again, and all the very best, Anuman. Thank you
Thanks a lot,
so much.
Natasha. Thank you so much. And whoever, if anyone needs to contact me or whatever, like feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to help. And good luck to everyone who watches the video. And hope you also get your dream score.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's about it.
I would
Thank you.
definitely attach, if this video goes on YouTube, just attach
Yeah,
even previous years because
yeah.
it's just a fantastic, review that you've given, good set of things that any student would have to prepare. It
Mhm.
is solid. It is because it is working again and again for you. So anybody who's not listening is definitely going to miss out. Thank you so much again,
No,
Anuman.
no
All the
problem.
best.
Thanks a lot,
Lovely
Natasha.
day. Bye. Take
All
care.
right, you too. Bye.